Greetings. My name is Ashton Arnoldy. I am currently a PhD candidate in the Philosophy, Cosmology, and Consciousness program at CIIS, and that's a Philosophy and Religion program for plain English. And I have the honor of giving a keynote presentation for this year's MysTech conference, The Mysteries of Light. And this is a little promo video for that talk, which I've titled Wielders of Light, the Role of Lux in the Evolution of Consciousness. So, in addition to being a PhD candidate in this philosophy and religion program, I have a background in astrology. I describe myself as an amateur astrologer since I was about 16 years old, and also background as a multimedia, mostly digital media artist. And I was drawn to this philosophy program because I wanted to understand how I could make art that was informed by a deeper history of how we as human beings have gotten to the point where we're at now, and how art might help to steward us into a deeper, a better future, uh, spiritually informed. And I would discover the work of Owen Barfield in this philosophy and religion program, and I found his account of the evolution of consciousness very compelling because it helped me to understand how something, for example, like astrology could have come about in our deep human past, when, in earlier phases of human evolution, there was a different form of consciousness that could perceive meaning immediately in the appearances of the outer world, and that somehow this kind of perception has been lost over time, but that something like this venerable tradition of astrology could have, in a kind of fossilized form, kept a record of that we might be able to tap into still today. And for Barfield, language itself is that kind of record. And so in the beginning of my talk, I'm going to present Barfield's understanding of what he calls semantic history, which is essentially looking at the transformation of word meanings over time as a kind of a fossil of earlier states of consciousness, and how a look into semantic history discloses an evolution of consciousness with a particular dynamic implied in it, which he used the phrase in his book, An Ancestral Voice, interior is anterior, to sort of characterize the whole dynamic, which is to say that the interior worlds of soul and spirit experience, meaning, such worlds are ontologically prior, and the experience is correlative to those worlds. So like inner experience is ontologically prior to the material world and the mode of outer sense perception that corresponds to it that we're so familiar with today. And so, as we'll see, the meanings communicated through the primordial capacity of this inner soul perception constitute, for Barfield and for Rudolf Steiner, a kind of luminosity. And so the words contain meanings that are the kind of the light of meaning, such that Barfield, in an essay that was recently published, the essay being The Light of the World, Barfield says, if we could really follow language back to its source, back to what is called the lost word, we should also come to the source of light, end quote. So elucidating just what this lost word is and how we might go about rediscovering it will be the through line of my talk. And so as I go further into the talk, I'll demonstrate Barfield's method by tracing a kind of morphology of meaning, focused on the concept of light, the meaning of light, as it appears throughout different languages of historical cultures. And I'll be beginning with the hieroglyphic representation of light in ancient Egypt. And from these concrete meanings conveyed in the hieroglyphic images, meanings that associate light with life and intelligence, the starry heavens, especially the sun, Uh, I'll follow it up into Greece and into modern European languages, and we'll discover along the way that a kind of polarization of its primordial unitary meaning of inside and outside, what we would call inside and outside today, has split up. And so for most of us today, light is something we relegate to the province of physics. It's something material, something that scientists deal with, though we experience it. But we also recognize that the use of the word light in poetry has a kind of spiritual, metaphorical value. But most people don't tend to think of those as literal, so that light is not literally illuminating us, our intelligence. It is not literally a source of divine power. It is not literally the expression of some kind of divine intelligence. And so we'll also see with this splitting up of the meaning of the primordial meaning of the word concept light, that we've appropriated one of its meanings, that being the creative intelligence of light. So we've sort of sucked all of the intelligence out of the world and into ourselves. At least that's the sort of common sense view today. Insofar as cosmic meaning is concerned, our historical period could be described, as I will describe it, as a kind of dark night, a cosmic winter of least light. But as the end of one of Rudolf Steiner's most recited verses goes, but in the deepening silence there grows and ripens what humanity speaks to the stars. And so, rounding out the talk, I will explore the potential future of light, a reappropriation of the fuller meaning of light through the promise of what Arthur Zajonc, following Rudolf Steiner, has called a yoga of the senses, so a breathing of sense perception. A practice whereby we might bring the light of our creative intelligence into a loving relationship with the outer world by rhythmically attending to its distinct being. So Goethe is an exemplar of this through observation, and then opening ourselves to, in a kind of withdrawing gesture, but nonetheless receptive, opening ourselves to receive the inward revelation of their inner soul, their inner aesthetic, their inner moral qualities. And so by becoming literate in the cosmic script that manifests itself in the sense world that we perceive, we might gradually rediscover what Barfield refers to as the lost word, reattuning to the macrocosm. And so in place of the homogeneous, abstract white light of Lucifer that Steiner describes in a lecture that I'll cite during the talk, this practice of getting to know the great spiritual diversity of the world that we perceive through the senses would renew our participation in the differentiated, colorful light of Isis, the Sophia, the cosmic wisdom. And this Isis power, as Steiner suggests, is what will be necessary for a renewal of astrology, a renewal of astrology that might guide our aspirations to create etheric technologies with exclusively harmonic intentions. So he talks about, and at least one kind of etheric technology of the future would involve a deeper understanding of the macrocosmic peripheral shaping forces and how those are involved in the generation of life forms. So that we might somehow potentially forge harmonic animal machines that do good for humanity. And so through our loving participation in the cosmic word, we might reunite the light of soul with the outer light and contribute to a future wherein, as Barfield writes, again, in the light of the world, the astral light, or the inner light of the soul, will become physical light, and the earth will be a luminous body, a sun body. So I look forward to the conference and hearing from all of the wonderful speakers that Andrew and the others have in store, and thank you very much.